Hey everyone, my name is Nathaniel Wing and I'm a European professional mix engineer. I mixed for 13 years and for 5 years professionally full-time. I run a page on X, which is pretty successful. We have 19,000 followers. I will leave the link in the description below if you want to follow me for daily mixing advice. In my first YouTube video, I will show you why I consider Reaper the best DAW for mixing, why I work on it. And I think that Reaper is not only the best DAW for mixing for its price, because many people say the Reaper is a great DAW for its price because it's cheap, but I don't actually agree with it. I think that Reaper is the best DAW for any money for mixing. It's better than everything. Of course, it's just my opinion, but I'll show you why I think so, and how I work, how I mix, and how Reaper helps my workflow. I will also show you how my custom Reaper works, because Reaper is very customizable. You can do pretty much anything there. I'll show you what I did to my Reaper, how I work. And the thing is that students of my vocal mixing course will receive this Reaper build for absolutely free. And it's pretty crazy because the amount of work I put in there, it cannot be measured. I worked on this Reaper build for about 3 years, and many people really paid me money to get this build because they have seen it. They saw how I work and they were pretty impressed. So I can confidently claim that this Reaper build costs the price of the whole course, which is pretty insane because you get the whole course as well. And the value of this course cannot be measured, to be honest, but I will not talk a lot about it because the video is not about it, but I will leave the link in the description if you want to check out my vocal mixing course. It's really cool. The point is that students will be able to download it, but I will show you what I did and how I work for everyone and why I consider Reaper the best DAW for mixing for any money. Let's get to the video. First of all, Reaper is very easy to use and it's very straightforward. It has pretty simple looks. Nothing is overwhelming. It's not too much in front of the eyes. You just have your tracks, you have the toolbar, you have your audio right here, and it's pretty much everything that you need to mix music. You probably will need a mixer sometimes. Other than that, it's nothing that distracts you from the working process. It's very simple. Second thing, it's the most important thing of Reaper, that is heavily customizable, and you cannot imagine, if you never worked in Reaper, you cannot imagine how customizable it is. Obviously, you can customize all these buttons to pretty much anything. You can customize any menu here. Let me show you, for example. We can customize mouse modifiers. So what happens when I left drag the audio clip? What happens when I left drag it with shift, with command, with shift plus command, with option? So if I hold different buttons, it allows me to customize the action. What happens when I do that? What happens when I left click on the item with shift? Is it default without any button? Then with shift, with command, shift command, and you can see that I didn't even use all the shortcuts that are available for this. You can change the context and customize what happens when you click on the ruler, for example, when you double click it, when you left click, when you left track, what happens when you click on the track, what happens when you click on project region, project marker, what happens when you click on media item edge, it means this edge is, what happens if you do it with shift or with command, like pretty much anything that you can think of. Automation item, envelope point is basically an automation point. What happens when you do anything within a DAW, you can customize it. And to customize, you use action list. This is the action list. This is all possible actions, from smallest ones like select something or move something to very complicated scripts. You have all these actions. Obviously, I never read all this. I just use what I need, and if I want to do something, I just go to Google and I type how to do this in Reaper, and they say like go to action lists and find this action and you're good. Pretty much that's how I learned Reaper. That's how I did all what I did. We have, for example, show height envelope for last touched fx parameter. It means that the last parameter that we touch, we can quickly create an automation for it. Let's, for example, add it to, I don't know, J, so I can adjust something, and then I click J and it creates an automation for this parameter, which is band 1 frequency in Pro Q. I just created it right in front of you. I added J as a shortcut for this action, and then boom, it's working. So if you sit for a little, you can customize Reaper, not by reading all this. Obviously, no one's gonna read all these actions, but again, just by Googling how to do this, I want to quickly do this, and you can do anything within Reaper. Let's remove the automation for now, because we don't need it yet. So customization of everything is insane, but you don't necessarily need to worry about all this, because I will give you my custom Reaper build and I will explain a little bit how it works. Although you will probably want to reset the shortcuts to default. You can do it here, reset all shortcuts to defaults, because if you try to Google something or learn something, it probably won't work like in default Reaper. I cannot promise. I don't remember anything I did. I don't remember if I changed some really important shortcuts, but I'm just warning you because it can happen, and you can always reset all the shortcuts. It won't affect anything I did other than shortcuts. Third thing about Reaper is very simple routing. You don't have all those effects channels, bus channels, mono tracks, stereo tracks, none of that. You just have tracks. The track in Reaper is a track. You can use it just like you want. You can use it as an instrumental track, you can use it as a bus, you can use it as an effects track. It doesn't really matter. Let's say I have this track and I have this track, and I want to create a bus. What I do is just disconnecting them from master channel, and then I route them like this to the third track. Let's call it bus. You can see it automatically renames the send here, and that's it. Now this channel functions as a bus. You don't need anything extra. But in my Reaper, I actually created a shortcut. So if I undo all those actions, I can just select all those channels and click. Let's select all 3 channels and click add bus for selected channels in this context menu. And now it automatically disconnected them from master and routed them to the bus that he created himself and named it a bus. I can rename it like vocal bus, for example. Now it's renamed. You can do any sends like this, but just by dragging, or you can use this context menu from input output button and use sends and choose where you want to send the track, and it will appear here. All your sends and outputs are visible here. Again, it's very easy and straightforward. If you want to sidechain something, it's also very easy in Reaper. Let's say we want to sidechain our bass track. We have a multiband compression here, and we want to sidechain it from the kick. Let's name this channel kick. It automatically calls the track, but never mind. Then you want to sidechain, and what you do is drag the output of the channel to the plugin like that, and you can see that sidechain appeared. You can do it either from the sends or you can do it from the IO button. Again, it's very easy. All the routing in Reaper is very easy and straightforward. You just route tracks to each other like that, just by dragging or choosing from here, or you can open this IO menu and see all your sends from here with some additional control and add new send from here, but it's not necessary. You can add sends right from here. Master send sends your channel to the master channel, and you can see the green indicator appears. I can remove it with option button very quickly like that. You can also choose receives from other tracks, and then it will create a send from this track. Just an alternative way to create sends. Routing on Reaper is very easy. After the routing, I wanted to show you the next thing. Is the great thing of Reaper is monitoring channel. And I have tonal balance control, which is disabled, but it doesn't matter. The thing is that this monitoring channel that you can turn off like this very quickly and then turn on again. These effects, they also apply to what you hear. They do not apply to the renders, and you can correct your headphones or monitors, apply some adjustments to your monitoring. It applies to all projects at the same time. Yes, if you don't have monitoring channel, you can create it, for example, using those things on the master channel, or you add a fake master channel and all these things. You can work around this, but if you want to adjust the monitoring, like the slightest thing. You cannot adjust it in all the projects at the same time. In every project, you will have different monitoring, and it will be a huge pain to control this and make sure that you have the same monitoring every time. With Reaper, you can just tweak your monitoring or add a new analyzer, and it will appear here on monitor effects for every project, because it's being set up on the Reaper level. It's not on project level like in other DAWs that don't have this feature. Actually, a few DAWs have this feature, but not all the DAWs have this feature. But I think it's very useful. Even if you use just some analyzers, and let's say I want to see something differently, I adjust my analyzer a little bit. And if I don't have monitoring channel, I have to adjust it on every single project I ever worked on. And if I work on a few projects at the same time, I have to tweak the setting on every project, and I have to change it for my future projects, and I have to separately tweak my template. If I have it in my template, I have to tweak everything, and I can't even remember where I tweaked it and where I didn't tweak it. It becomes just impossible to control. People that don't have monitoring channel in their DAW, their life is a bit more complicated because of it. If they use analyzers, or they use some plugins like Wheelphones to correct their headphones, or maybe they use something to correct their monitors, but most people use analyzers or something, and having monitoring channel to adjust these things on the Reaper level, it's super handy. The next thing I want to show in Reaper is how quick is the editing. The editing on Reaper is just insane. It's very quick and it's very straightforward. Like, let's say I want to strip silence the vocals, it automatically creates those fades. You can see I don't need to create them manually. Then I can cut anything very quickly just by hovering the mouse and press a button, and it automatically creates a crossfade. More than the crossfade, what my Reaper does, but we will get back to my Reaper features, but I want you to show this. As you can see, when I cut something right here where my mouse is, my edit cursor automatically moves 3 seconds behind, so I can cut and then I can immediately listen to how it sounds. Like if I cut here, I can immediately listen a little bit in the context to how it sounds, because I just tired of it. Every single time I cut something, I have to manually place my cursor and listen how it sounds. It was really annoying. I created this thing that automatically, whenever I place the cut, it just allows me to play it right away and listen to what I did. Other than simple cutting, I can select areas like this and quickly cut them on both sides. Let's say I want to do something with this and I want to turn it down, turn it up, whatever I want to do. I can quickly, let's say I want to apply clip gain automation to this item, and I can clip gain it. I can, let's say, apply clip gain to this, do something like this, create some complicated clip gain automation. Let's say I want to remove this peak, I can super quickly adjust it, and you can see how smooth the automation is. Again, it's how my Reaper works. I created these things so my Reaper automatically adjusts the automation and makes it curved and smooth. I think it saves a lot of time, because when I did automations, let's say like that, I anyway did those smoothing curves manually. Also, you can quickly apply some effects. Let's say we want to apply an EQ to just one audio region. You can see that now effects is green, and let's say I want to copy this equalizer to this. I just drag it, and now boom, now you can see that this equalizer is also on the other audio region. I can remove it quickly. I can do anything with vocals. I can mute it, I can quickly adjust the gain. There is nothing that you can't do very quickly. Anything. In my Reaper, again, I have this edit toolbar that allows to quickly drop the RX modules, so I can edit vocals right from here. For example, if I see some mouth clicks, let's say, I can just do it like that, click mouth click, it automatically drops a mouth click, and then I render it right away. so it applies the effects and it doesn't render in real time, just to save CPU. Because if I will have all those plugins on these little regions, it just will eat my CPU for no reason at all, because if I want to apply the plugin, I will just apply it. And even without going to Isotope RX, I can quickly apply some modules, let's say the plosive, and then I can quickly render it. I can quickly glue items, so remove those crossfades. I can quickly add stretch markers by clicking Shift and left mouse click. I can quickly stretch the audio. I can remove stretch markers by pressing this button that I added. Let's summarize the editing. Again, very easy cutting, very easy copying. You can move things to grid or hold Shift and move them freely. Everything is very easy clip gain automation, whatever you want to do, or stretch markers to just stretch the vocals a little bit. You can see that I have my spectral peaks engaged in Reaper. It helps to detect sibilances or plosiveness and other artifacts that can occur in the vocals. You can see that sibilances are red, plosiveness is purple, because purple is low frequencies. These are blue low mid frequencies. You can quickly see this is a low energy burst and explosiveness that we can remove. This is pretty harsh. This is pretty harsh. These are super sibilances, they're super red. It's really easy to visually see your spectrum like that. It just saves time. You immediately can understand where you need to pay attention. The next thing I want to talk with you is automation. The automation in Reaper is very easy to use. Again, I will say it a million times today, very easy to use, because it is. Let's add our Pro Q3, and we want to apply automation to the frequency band. And let's say we want to apply an automation to a low pass filter. So we create a low pass filter and we want to automate this knob that calls frequency to create this movement. What we need to do is just click on this band, on this knob, and then in parameters, you just click Show Track Envelope. You can see band 1 frequency here. It's our last touched. If I click here, I don't need to move it. You can see band 1 Q, but I need frequency. In some DAWs you need to move it a little bit and it's annoying. In Reaper you just can click on it and then Show Track Envelope. Our envelope is ready. Again, automation draws very smoothly automatically because it's how I set up my Reaper. If I want to move it like from here, being more abrupt, I can just create a new point. By default, points also attached to grid, but I can hold Shift and move them freely, very easily. I can turn down the whole section by pressing Shift Option, like this. Then I can adjust it and smooth it out a little bit if I need to. I can draw automation without any problems, or I can select some points and I can move them to the grid, or I can move them freely with holding Shift. Anything that you need to do very quickly with automation, it just gets done very easily again. And if I need to copy the automation, I just create an automation item and I can copy the automation as much times as I want. I can copy it to another track. I can create channel automation from here again very quickly. Let's say I want to automate the volume of this track and I want to automate it like this. Oh, let's copy rather than move. Boom. I can turn down the rest of the automation, and now it's only the automation item that is working for this particular track. That way I can quickly throw automations between different channels, different parameters, and again, it's very easy. By default, they are unique, but I can create a pooled duplicate. So if I adjust one automation item, it's automatically adjusted on all copies. Again, it can be very useful. You can see that both automation items are being edited as I edit only one automation item, and it will also work between different channels. If it's pooled, you can see that it works even on different channels at the same time. It doesn't matter what parameters you use, you can add any parameters to any plugins or to the master channel. It just doesn't matter. It will work just like you want. Next thing I want to talk about is render settings. Basically, it's the most precise render settings that you can find in any DAW, I'm pretty much sure. You can obviously export master mix or stems from selected tracks. You can also export master mix plus stems at the same time, so they both will render. You can choose the time range, custom or entire project automatically. Then you can use wildcards in names, and it's really great. You can name your project like project name, then I don't know, you can add formats, so it will become wave. You can add date here, or you can add bit depth, and then bit. I actually export things like that, so it will change to, let's remove the date, it will change to wave, then it will change to the bit depth that I will be using here. If it's 16, then it will be 16 and then bit. So it will call it, you can see it here actually. You can see test is the project name that I made for this lesson, wave 16-bit. If I change it to 24-bit, it will change to 24-bit here. You can add this to the template, and I have it in my template. So anytime I create new project, it just automatically names this project for me. I don't need to name it manually all the time. You can think of any name that you possibly can need using date, using output format, or all those other things that you probably will never use. But if you, let's say, want to export stems, you just click on selected tracks stems, and then you, let's say, project name, and then you just put the track name. So every track will be named like project name, then underline, and then track name. You can see it, test, underline, vocals. And for all the tracks that we select, it will be the same. Now it says one file because I have only one track selected. If I will select two, it will say 2 files, and so on. We can change the sample rate, and we also can mix and process effects at project sample rate. So if I work in 96K sample rate, but I want to export in 44K or 48K, I can still mix and process effects at my project sample rate, and it will be rendered to the 44K file, but it will sound like it was mixed in 96K. Because if you change the sample rate in any other DAW, it will sound differently. Reaper allows to mix and process effects at higher sample rate, which is my DAW sample rate, but I don't need necessarily to export at 96K to get this sound and then downsample it to 44K separately. I can render to 44K right away, but still have the 96K mix. You can render 2 files at the same time, let's say MP3 and WAV. The Reaper will render both WAV and MP3 at the same time. You also can save project copy to your render, so you have, for every mix, you will have a separate project copy. If you want to get back to something from any mix, you can just open this project copy. It will be named just like your WAV file. And we also have those quiet renders. It allows us to create a choir of renders and then render them at the same time. For example, you mixed 5 songs during the day and then you go to sleep and leave them to render, and Reaper opens projects by one and renders all your mixes. Or probably you just go away from the studio or from the home and you want to render all your tracks while you're going out. Reaper can do that just perfectly. The next big advantage of Reaper is that it allows to undo any action, like literally. There is no action in Reaper that cannot be undone. I have the automation for my bend frequency, let's remove it. So anything that you will do, anything, adding plugins, let's add something, let's tweak it, let's do anything. We can create some automation, let's draw it, and then I will press Command Z and it will undo anything. Adding effects, adding automation, drawing automation, editing those effects. There is no action. There is no action that cannot be undone in Reaper, and it's super crucial and important because sometimes I will tweak something for infinity and then I can accidentally move this or I can accidentally delete some plugin. I can do many things accidentally, and I want to be able to undo those actions. In Pro Tools, for example, there is so little things that you can undo. It's just unfair, I think, and I don't think any DAW allows to undo like any action, literally any action. I can just do random things, I can try different things, and then I can undo them very easily. It just makes the whole mixing easier and the whole interaction with my DAW easier, that I can do things so quickly. By the way, I didn't tell you about those inserts. You can see only 4 here, but if I add more, I can copy more. You can see that they will fit the space until all the space is taken, but still there is no limit how many plugins you can add on the track. You can add even more. Let's try. It will allow you to see your plugins. Even from here, you can see that it's creating. It allows us to create more plugins, and I can just use this slider to see them all. They're all the same, so you'd not see them moving, but they are moving. I can add as many plugins as I want to any track, as well as sense. The next big thing of Reaper is it can modulate the parameters, and it is very sick. You can, let me show you. You can have any parameter, let's say the gain, and I can modulate it. You can use other signal to control this modulation. So when sidechain signal will play, it will trigger our modulation. But we can also use low frequency oscillator. Let's try it. We can sync it to our BPM, and now our gain is being adjusted in real time in sync with BPM. Of course, it's some madness. I'm not trying to do it that way. Let's reduce the strength. Let's change the phase and starting point. Now it's a lot better. Now it's moving together with our song, and we can use this thing very creatively. It's just infinite possibilities to mix our song when we can use any plugin. Like, we can take literally any plugin and we can modulate it in sync with our DAW and make our mixes dance. We can sidechain any signals to any parameters. Let's say when some sound will play, it will change, I don't know, let's say it will change the frequency. When sound will play, it will change the frequency of this equalizer to here, and then it will get back. Every time that some other sound will play, it will trigger our modulation, and the frequency of this equalizer will change, or let's say it will become more wide or narrow. Obviously, it's some stupid examples, but you get the idea that you can modulate any parameters and sidechain them from any other signals. And the creativity of these things, they're just infinite. It's just breaking all the barriers. There is no thing that you cannot do with this. You can create some insane techniques, your own techniques, some secret techniques that will involve modulation, and just go crazy with your mixes and create some super complicated movement that will be musical because you can tempo sync this. And I cannot explain how great this feature is. It's just very good. The Reaper is the most efficient DAW in terms of CPU. It's just facts, it's not what I think. There are tests on the internet, but I also experienced it. I had a Pro Tools on my older laptop, and I couldn't mix there more than 4 or 5 tracks. 4 or 5 tracks maximum. And it just stopped working. It just freezes and it's not playing any audio. While on the same laptop, in Reaper, I could mix complicated projects using my template, using my, not in this exact variation like I showed you, because I'm on MacBook Pro now, and of course I can use some more things, but it wasn't drastically lighter, it still was my template. Of course it was a problem on my old laptop because it was pretty slow and not that powerful. If you have a powerful PC, of course you can mix in any DAW just fine, but I know that a lot of people don't have very powerful PC and they want to get the most out of their DAWs, and Reaper allows to use 100% of your power. And you have a CPU meter over here that tells you how much CPU do you use, how much CPU each track uses. You can easily see that this track uses the most CPU because I have a plugin on it, and I can easily render it just by using freeze button, and now it's not using CPU anymore. I can quickly sort the tracks by CPU usage and just freeze the most heavy tracks in my project and continue to work. It's a great feature that makes Reaper even more efficient. If you don't have a super powerful PC, you can use this CPU meter to optimize your workflow and use the power of your machine the most effectively. You can compare with anything. The Reaper is the most efficient DAW on the market.
Another great feature of Reaper routing that I remembered later is that you can easily solo any channel, including effects channel, without any problems. And what I mean by that, let's take a look at our example. You can see that we have the lead vocals track here, and let's say we create a reverb track here, and we will send the lead vocals to the reverb. I will not add the actual plugin, I will just show the concept. So we have the reverb here and the dry vocals here, and I want to listen to the reverb only. And if I click solo, in Reaper I will actually hear the reverb only. No matter the other routing, no matter how complicated is your template, your routing setup, it doesn't matter. If you click the solo on the track, it will solo the track, and you will listen to this track only. In other DAWs, like in Pro Tools, you cannot do that. I was surprised, but it is what it is. If you solo the reverb, it mutes all the other tracks, like this, and if lead vocal track is muted, it means that nothing goes to the reverb channel, and you cannot hear it, it's just silence. I can understand the logic of it, but it's so inconvenient, and you need to work around this. You need to create separate buses and save solo them. It's really becoming a pain. Yes, you can do that in Pro Tools and other DAWs, but not in all DAWs. Surprisingly, not in all DAWs. You can just click the solo on the channel and listen to what happens on this particular channel. The Reaper allows it, and I love it very much. And what is surprising about all this, that the Reaper costs $60. I genuinely believe that it's the best DAW for any money, but it costs $60, and it has 2 months of free trial. You pay subscription for Pro Tools to have limitation on every step of the creative process. I actually don't get how people work on Pro Tools nowadays, but some people just get used to it. Okay, it's their business, it's not my business. But I genuinely believe that with all those things that I explained to you, it makes the Reaper the most efficient and easy to use DAW from all the other DAWs, like literally. We can discuss a few things about my Reaper build. I use Smooth 6 theme because it's the only theme for a MacBook Pro that looks good because it's high resolution. Yes, the default theme also looks good, but the Smooth 6 is way better than the stock theme, I think. It just looks very modern and I like it very much. The toolbar that you can see is pretty simple. Close project, render, mixer, all the most necessary buttons, Media Explorer, CPU meter, I already showed it to you, action list, options, project settings, edit toolbar, I already showed it to you, freeze mono, freeze stereo, unfreeze. The freezing actually works very good in Reaper. It doesn't mess up the routing. You can freeze a bus, you can freeze an effects. Let's say we will add some reverb over here. We will set mix to 100%, and then I will freeze the reverb on. Now it's only the reverb. If I unfreeze this track, it will remove the audio and restore our plugin, so it works again the same. We have move points button over here, and it allows us to change how our automation behaves when we move the audio item. Let's say I have automation over here, and if I have move points, then the points of automation will be moving together with audio. You can see that automation is moving together with audio. It's very important sometimes, and in other DAWs it just can be a pain if you want to move your audio a little bit, but it doesn't move the automation. Here you can either move automation or you cannot move the automation. You can see that if I turn off this button, our automation stays at the same place, and I can adjust the position of the audio. With this button engaged, we can move the automation together with our audio. Then we have a button that turns on monitoring toolbar. I have mono, site, demo, and reference buttons over here. It allows me to listen in mono, it allows me to listen the side of the mix only. It also allows me to
compare my mix to the demo or reference, it will work in my mixing template. If you use my mixing template, you can click those buttons to quickly compare the mix to the demo that artist provided or to the reference mix. Just for easy, quick comparison, whenever you are in the project, you just can use these buttons and compare your mix. Then I have a toolbar that is called preparing. I have all the functions that I need when I prepare the project. We have batch rename. It allows to rename a few tracks at the same time. Auto-name items is a very cool script that allows to name those items. Let's say I renamed the track. It's been calling, like, I don't know, song name, BPM, like 150 and some whatever. And if I click auto-name items, it just automatically names all the items on the track. As you can see, I don't see anything further other than 4 or 5 symbols, and I want to see what's this item about. So when I rename the track, I just click auto name items. It automatically renames all the items on the track, and it will work even if we have different tracks. We have, let's say, piano, and here I want to rename to lead vocals, and I apply it to all the tracks at once, and you can see lead vocals here, piano here. I don't need to repeat it for every track. I just rename all the tracks with batch rename, leaving only the necessary information about the track, and then I choose all the tracks and I click auto name items, and all the items on all tracks are automatically named. It's very useful and time saving. Set signature allows me to add a first marker with the song key. Basically it's just a marker, but it places in the beginning of the song whatever my edit cursor is. If I click set signature, it creates the marker in the beginning. So my first marker in the beginning is always a song key, because Reaper doesn't allow to set the song key separately, but I can do it within the first marker. The next button is random colors, and it allows to set random colors to all selected tracks. It works like that. The next button is add marker. This button adds markers, but it also aligns them to the grid. Let me show you. You can see that I place the edit cursor not on the grid, but if I click add marker, it aligns it perfectly to the grid. I use these markers to create automations, and I love them to be precisely on the grid. Then I can click color markers. It just applies random colors to all the markers, just for easier visualization and navigation through the project. Insert spacer allows to add a spacer like that between the tracks. Insert summing allows to insert the summing instance to any track, because I add those summing instances to my new tracks, which is some instruments and all that. And then the mono check button, it allows to check if the audio is actually stereo or it's mono. If we try to apply it, let's say on this region, it says that both channels left and right are absolutely identical. It's very handy because it's not really quick and fast to check it manually. And the next, split channels. It allows to split the stereo file into 2 mono files. It can be useful to process left and right channel individually. I actually use it a little bit. You can see that it automatically mutes the original track. It creates a folder. So those 2 tracks are under this track. I can hide them. I don't know if you need it, but sometimes it's very useful for me. Then we have metronome button and ripple. Ripple allows us to, let me show you. For example, we want to move all the project files. You can see that I move this, but it moves all the markers, all the automation, all the audio tracks without selecting them. I can just quickly move my project files. I can do it on one track like that, or I can do it if I click it again for all the tracks in the project at the same time. And then I have a quit button to obviously quit music production, quit the Reaper. If I produce in Reaper, I switch the toolbar to the production. We will not discuss it right now, but if you will download my Reaper, you can play with it. From what you need to know about my Reaper build if you will download it, let me try to remember. I have the exclusive solo function. To do that, you need to double click any track
and you hear that previous solo is cancelled and I only hear this channel that I double clicked on. It also will work on the track itself. If I double click it here where our audio clips are, yeah, it's also a very cool thing and I use it very much in my every mixing session. I highly recommend to take a look at the shortcut, which is the button O. In my Reaper build, it's responsible for split. It's a long story why it's O, because I click it from my trackball. It's like a mouse, if you know. But the point of this button is that you can hover the mouse to any audio region, click on it, and it splits it. Because I use this button from my trackball, it's easy for me and convenient, but you might replace this button to any other shortcut that will be convenient to you personally. You also can take a look at a few other features from my Reaper build. In this context menu on the track, I already showed you a button that adds bus for selected channels. Hide tracks, it will hide the track. Show all tracks will show all the tracks that you have, including the channel that I'm using to record. Let's hide it. You also have here disable and enable tracks. These features are not present in stock Reaper. You can see that it makes all plugins offline, not just bypassed. It's offline now, it's not working like at all. It mutes the channel and puts all the audio on the track offline, meaning that channel is not working at all. And if I click enable tracks, it will make my track back to normal and it will function. I think it can be useful. In this context menu, I added apply effects, mono stereo, so you can easily render the plugins that you added to the audio clip so they are not rendered in real time and it saves your CPU. You can also do it from this toolbar. It's basically the same functions. You can open items in editor, for example Isotope RX, and then you can just rewrite the original file and it will be actually rewritten in your session. You don't need to drag the new files. Probably to execute that, you will need to put your file offline first. In my Reaper build, it's option I, offline. Then you go to Isotope RX, you rewrite the original file. There is a button there in Isotope RX that not saves the new file but rewrites the original file, and when you rewrote the file you can press the option I again and it will be new edited file from Isotope RX. It's very handy to not drop the files back and forth to Isotope RX and then back to the session, and if it's a small file you need to drop it and then you have to put it in the same place as before. I'm pretty sure that I didn't show many things that I use because I did so much to my Reaper, and Reaper itself has so many functions that I don't know, I will need 10 hours or I don't know how many hours I need to explain all the features from Reaper, but it's very simple, it's very straightforward. Even if you didn't dive to all Reaper features yet, you can download it and you can work on it because it's pretty simple. I didn't show you the mixer, but the mixer again it's very easy. You can see the plugins here and the sends here and mute buttons and solo and faders. Nothing is really complicated. I can create new tracks like this. And yeah, Reaper is very simple and straightforward DAW that anyone can use and learn it pretty quick. However, it's the most powerful and customizable DAW for mixing. In my opinion, the level of creativity you can achieve here is just insane. It just has no limits at all. Everything is smooth, everything is very quick. You don't need to work around anything. You just can focus on work, and work. It also backs up the files amazingly. There wasn't a single case when I lost my project in Reaper, and even if I needed to get back to some point, I always could see the backups and choose the one that I need and take something from this project. It creates a backup every few minutes and it will open anytime without any problems. Literally, it never crashes, the projects are not damaging, there is nothing that distracts you from the mixing and creative work and working on the songs. Again, I highly recommend Reaper for mixing. It's just great. Thanks for watching, and join my course if you want to get this Reaper build for free with all the functions that I showed you today and work in the exact same DAW as I'm working. If I will update my Reaper build and do some more to it, add some more features, add some more interesting things, I will definitely share it with my students again, so they always get my updated template, updated Reaper build, and I will make sure that my students grow together with me and always have the best experience that I can get, and they work as efficiently as possible. See you next time.